You know how everyone's like super into buying local these days? Like it's this whole trend.
Right.
Yeah. So we thought we'd take a deep dive into a blog post from Vacu-Man Furnace and Duct Cleaning.
Okay.
They're a Canadian company, by the way, just so you know.
Gotcha.
And they really get into like what's behind this trend. You know, is it just like a feel-good patriotism thing, or is there something more to it? Like, is there a real argument for buying local?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that they chose furnace filters to start with.
I know, right?
It's not like the first thing you think of when you're like, oh, gotta buy Canadian.
Exactly. But they make this whole argument about how Canadian-made filters are actually like higher quality.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they say something about stricter manufacturing standards being a big factor.
Well, you know, when you think about it, those filters are literally cleaning the air you breathe every single day.
True.
And in Canada, they have to meet all these specific requirements set by the Canadian Standards Association.
Huh.
Like, for example, they have to meet CSA standard F304, which is like all about minimum efficiency for furnace filters.
So like how well they actually work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It means Canadian filters have to capture a certain percentage of airborne particles,
Oh, wow.
which, you know, could be a huge deal for anyone with allergies or asthma.
That makes total sense. So it's not just like a vague idea of supporting local businesses.
Right.
It's like potentially better air quality too.
Exactly. And another thing Vacu-Man brings up is how their filters are designed specifically for the Canadian climate.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like our winters and summers are no joke.
Seriously.
Mm.
And they actually mentioned those wild temperature swings we get, you know, from way below freezing in winter to like scorching hot summers.
Yeah, a filter designed for a milder climate probably wouldn't last very long here.
Potentially not. I mean, filter technology has come a long way, so it's not to say a filter from another country wouldn't work at all.
Right.
But it's definitely something to keep in mind, especially since we Canadians rely on our furnaces so much for like half the year.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, so we're seeing that there might be some real substance behind this buy Canadian idea.
Yeah, it's more than just a warm, fuzzy feeling for sure.
For sure. But let's move past furnace filters for a sec, because Vacu-Man has also put together this massive list of Canadian-made products.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it goes way beyond appliances. Like, you wouldn't believe some of the stuff on here.
I'm intrigued. It seems like they're trying to prove a point about how diverse Canadian manufacturing really is.
Exactly, and there are definitely some surprises on this list. Like, for starters, did you know there's a Canadian company called Eurocom that makes high-performance laptops?
No way.
Yeah, apparently they're pretty popular with gamers and video editors who need a lot of processing power.
Huh. That's pretty cool. It is kind of surprising to see a Canadian company in that niche, though.
Right.
Like, we usually associate that kind of high-end tech with brands from overseas,
For sure.
but it also shows you how globalized the tech industry has become these days.
Yeah.
Like, companies source components and expertise from all over the place now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, and get this. Apple, like the huge tech giant,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
they actually own a former Canadian VR company called Vervana.
Really?
Yeah. They were working on VR headsets, and Apple just scooped them up a few years ago.
Wow. I had no idea. That's actually a pretty common strategy in the tech world, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Big companies will often just buy up smaller companies that have promising technology or specialized talent.
Interesting. So they don't have to build everything from scratch themselves.
Exactly.
So we've got high-performance laptops, virtual reality. What other tech surprises are on this list?
Well, they mentioned a company called Hexoskin.
Okay.
They make smart clothing.
Oh, like those workout clothes that can, like, track your heart rate and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Like athletic wear with sensors built right into the fabric.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a big trend right now, this whole wearable technology thing.
It's crazy how fast that stuff is evolving.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And it's cool to see a Canadian company making a name for themselves in that market.
All right, let's move on from tech and talk about some things we use every day. Okay. You ready for this?
Hit me.
Sultan appliances.
Okay.
You know, like toasters, blenders, coffee makers.
Yeah.
All Canadian. I bet everyone listening has owned a Sultan appliance at some point
Probably.
and didn't even realize it was made here.
It's funny how that happens, right? Like, we just assume everything comes from overseas these days.
Totally. And for bigger appliances, there's Danby.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of them.
They make refrigerators, dishwashers, microwaves, like all that stuff.
Huh. So it's not just the smaller appliances. Canada's got the big ones covered, too.
Exactly. This list is really showing us that Canadian manufacturing is way more diverse than we might think.
It really is.
And we've barely scratched the surface. Get ready for more, because we're going to jump into personal care, clothing, even food and beverages next.
I can't wait.
All right, so we were just talking about appliances, but let's move on to personal care now, okay?
Okay.
Get this: Rocky Mountain Soap Company,
Uh-huh.
Green Beaver, Consonant Skincare, all Canadian.
It's kind of funny how that whole group is like really focused on natural and eco-friendly ingredients.
Right.
Like it's tapping into that whole consumer trend towards sustainability and, ethically sourced stuff.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of trends, if you're into that whole traditional shaving thing, like old school safety razors and those fancy brushes,
Yeah.
there's this Canadian company called Henson Shaving that's making waves.
Really?
Yeah. They've got a bit of a cult following, actually.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
There's definitely a growing interest in those kinds of like artisanal products. It's like a pushback against mass production.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's talk clothes. No surprise here. Roots is a classic Canadian brand.
Of course.
I mean, who doesn't love a cozy Roots sweatshirt, right?
Right.
But did you know there's also Naked and Famous Denim?
Oh, yeah.
They make super high-quality jeans, and they're known for using some pretty unique denim fabrics, like really interesting stuff.
I've heard of them. Yeah. They've got a great reputation for quality and craftsmanship.
Yeah.
It's a good example of how Canadian-made can be like niche and specialized.
Oh, totally. Not just mass market stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of niche, here's a fun fact. Canada doesn't have its own car brand.
Right.
But we do have a lot of major assembly plants for companies like Honda, Toyota, Ford.
Oh, really?
Yeah, mostly in Ontario, so maybe not strictly Canadian-made,
Right.
But those cars are still being put together right here.
Huh. That's interesting. It really shows you how complicated global manufacturing is these days.
Yeah.
Like, where does made and end and assembled and begin?
Exactly. It's not always so clear-cut.
Nope.
Okay, are you ready for some food and drink? Because this is where I get excited.
Hit me.
First up, Purdy's Chocolatier. Come on, who doesn't love Purdy's?
That's a Canadian classic for sure.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of classics, Vacu-Man also highlights covered bridge chips.
Okay.
Twice, actually, so they must be pretty special.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they must have made an impression.
I haven't tried them, but now I'm curious.
Me too.
And for those who are into sports and fitness, there's BioSteel, a Canadian sports drink that's apparently pretty popular with professional athletes.
Huh. It's always cool to see Canadian brands making it in those competitive markets,
Yeah.
It's just something about the quality and innovation coming out of Canada.
Absolutely. So as you can see, this list just goes on and on.
Yeah, for real.
We haven't even talked about things like tools, home improvement, or even whiskey.
It's really impressive when you think about it.
It is.
And I think the takeaway here is the sheer variety of products being made in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
It really challenges that perception that buy Canadian means like settling for limited choices.
Yeah.
Or sacrificing quality.
Totally. But now that we've seen all this great stuff being made here, let's get real for a second. Is buying Canadian always the best option?
That's a good question.
Are there any downsides we should be aware of?
Well, while there are definitely a lot of good reasons to support Canadian businesses, we do need to be realistic. Sometimes prioritizing Canadian-made products might mean paying a bit more.
That's
smaller scale production or higher labor costs can sometimes affect the price tag.
right. And what about availability? What if you're looking for something super specific and there just isn't a Canadian-made option? Do you compromise on your buy Canadian goal then?
Yeah, that's where it gets tricky. There might be some product categories where Canadian options are limited.
Right.
Or maybe you have really specific needs or preferences that a local brand just can't meet.
Yeah.
It's all about balance.
Yeah. So how do we navigate those trade-offs?
Right.
How do we find that sweet spot between supporting Canadian businesses and making sure we're getting what we need as consumers?
I think it comes down to understanding your own priorities.
Okay.
What are you willing to compromise on, and what are your non-negotiables?
Yeah.
Like maybe you prioritize Canadian-made for everyday things like groceries and clothes, but you're more flexible when it comes to specialized items or those niche products we were talking about.
That makes sense. So it's less about following a rigid set of rules and more about just being mindful.
Yeah.
And making informed choices based on our values.
Exactly. And being honest with ourselves about the trade-offs involved, because let's face it, in today's world, it's pretty much impossible to buy everything locally.
True.
Even with the best intentions.
So maybe it's not about achieving buy Canadian perfection, but about shifting our mindset, even if it's just a little bit.
I think it's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about asking ourselves, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Who made it? What are the implications of my purchase? and then making choices that align with our values and priorities.
So instead of feeling overwhelmed or guilty,
Right.
it's about feeling empowered to make a difference.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we have power as consumers.
Yeah.
Our choices have ripple effects. Even small shifts in our buying habits can contribute to a more sustainable, equitable, and vibrant local economy.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the big picture, but let's bring it back to this amazing list from Vacu-Man. What are some of the products or companies that stood out to you personally?
I was really impressed by how many Canadian companies are focusing on natural and eco-friendly products, like Rocky Mountain Soap and Green Beaver. It shows a commitment to sustainability that I find really encouraging.
Me too. And I was so surprised by Naked and Famous Denim.
Yeah.
I love that they're like pushing the boundaries with their fabrics and designs.
Yeah.
It's proof that Canadian made can be just as stylish and innovative as any international brand.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the products themselves,
Right.
but the stories behind them. These are often small businesses,
Yeah.
passionate entrepreneurs who are pouring their heart and soul into creating high-quality goods right here in Canada.
That's such an important point. It's about supporting local communities, fostering innovation, and keeping jobs in Canada. Yeah. It's about investing in something bigger than just the item you're buying.
Exactly. And there's a certain sense of pride that comes with knowing that these products were made with care right here at home.
Oh, for sure.
It's a way of connecting with our own country and its unique talents and craftsmanship.
I couldn't agree more so. As we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite Canadian-made products? Or are there any local brands you're curious to try after seeing this list?
Well, I'm definitely going to try those covered bridge chips.
Oh, yeah.
Twice recommended. They've got to be good.
Uh-huh.
And I'm always on the lookout for new Canadian-made skincare products.
Yeah.
So I'll be checking out some of the brands we mentioned.
Me too. And I'm adding Naked and Famous Denim to my shopping list.
Nice.
It's amazing how much we've learned about Canadian-made products just from this one blog post.
It just goes to show that there's always more to discover.
Right.
And that's what makes this whole conversation so exciting. It's not about limitations, it's about possibilities.
Wow, we have really gone deep on this Buy Canadian idea today, huh?
Yeah, we have.
From furnace filters to chocolate, it's like there's a Canadian-made option for everything.
It really is.
I know.
And what's really stood out to me is that it's not even just about the products themselves. It's about the values behind those choices.
Yeah.
Like supporting local businesses, reducing our environmental impact, celebrating Canadian innovation, all that good stuff.
For sure. And you know what else I've realized? It doesn't have to be like a black and white thing.
What do you mean?
Like, we don't have to buy Canadian exclusively to make a difference.
That's true. It's more about making conscious choices whenever we can.
Exactly.
Understanding the trade-offs and finding a balance that works for each of us.
Right. Like maybe for you, it's about always getting Canadian-made groceries. Or maybe it's about trying to find Canadian brands when you need new clothes or a winter coat.
Or supporting those local artisans at farmers markets and craft fairs.
Yes. Every little bit counts.
Definitely.
Honestly, this whole conversation has really changed how I think about things.
Same here.
I'm going to be way more aware of where the things I buy are coming from now.
Me too. It's so easy to think that our individual choices don't matter.
Right.
But they really do. Every purchase is like a vote for the kind of world we want to live in.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone listening with a little challenge.
Okay, I like it.
Take a look around your house or think about the stuff you buy all the time and ask yourself, what are some of your favorite Canadian-made products?
And if you're feeling adventurous, why not try something new?
Yes. Like maybe there's a local brand you've been curious about but haven't tried yet.
Exactly.
Share your discoveries with us. Tell your friends. Spread the word. Who knows? You might just inspire someone else to support a Canadian business.
And they might find something amazing in the process.
That's the best part. It's like a journey of discovery. And who knows what hidden gems are out there just waiting to be found.
Right here in our own backyard.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep supporting those incredible Canadian businesses out there. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.